If Vego Gardens were a client of mine, here's how I would transform their product first company into a lifestyle brand universe people are obsessed with. So let's take a look at where this all started. Recently, Vego Gardens posted a position for a director of brand and creative because they were looking to take their product-based business and turn it into a lifestyle brand. And they had a couple of key goals that they were really looking for, success metrics. And so that was the first thing that I looked at. Let's see what the client is really wanting here. So improved conversion through stronger storytelling, scalable high-performing content engine, stronger retention driven by consistent seasonal and lifecycle driven messaging, creative team that operates effectively, but the big thing being a recognizable lifestyle brand. And so let's first examine where Vego Garden is starting from. So again, they've got stunning products. Their key really, or like the big thing that they focus on is they've built products that last, that make gardening easier, and that bring beauty to every space. So it was actually founded by an engineer, which is really, really cool because he is focused on making sure that we are updating the gardening industry. Because what he noticed when he got back into gardening after growing up gardening with his grandparents, that the materials haven't been updated in over 20 years. And so that's when he went to the drawing board to create materials that were sustainable, actually effective for how people garden now, and long lasting. Not to mention absolutely stunning, which you can see in some of the products here. But this is where they're starting from. So what I'm noticing is a lot of their information is very educational. It's very focused on like how to grow things. They do have a couple of kind of series that they're doing, which is really exciting, but still a lot of the focus is on the products themselves. If you see some of their content, even content that they've created with influencers, it's still very product heavy and product based. And so when I was starting and kind of playing around with this in my head, I got to asking, okay, why do people actually garden? Like I think about sustainability as someone who also like, I love to garden. I've got little garden beds on my back porch. I grow all kinds of things, but I really think sustainability, connection to the earth, sometimes connection to family roots. So I think a lot of times, even with the founder, right, he got back into gardening after having grown up gardening, creativity and making something, community, and that's going to be a big thing that I pull through here, and the ability to share what you have produced. Things like being outside, but also being able to enjoy the beautiful things that you put your energy into. And so when I think of the different ways that people use their gardens, right, we've got flowers and we've got like vegetable and produce gardens. And so as I was considering this lifestyle, Martha Stewart is who came to mind a lot. Now, if you've not seen Martha Stewart's documentary on Netflix, definitely go and check it out. It's very, very interesting. It tells the story of how the Martha Stewart brand was built. And for her, the brand actually started, so before she ever had products, it was more of a publication, a magazine, teaching people how to essentially host these really beautiful experiences in your home. And what I would like to see Vego Garden do is actually reverse this. So starting as a product company and actually turning into the modern day Martha Stewart. So what does that lifestyle look like? So when we're thinking of the modern day gardener, you know, perhaps it's someone in a suburban area or an urban area, they're getting together with their friends on the weekends, spending time enjoying the garden. Again, a lot of community production and the absorption in the hobby without it necessarily being their full-time thing. So how would I actually bring this lifestyle to life through the Vego Garden brand? So let's look at my framework. This is the framework that I take all of my clients through, the brand caliber standard. And I've actually pulled together a couple of examples here of what I would do using this framework for Vego Gardens. First and foremost, let's look at the identity core, right? So this is where the identity of the brand comes from. Right now, it's very product first and focused. But Vego Gardens has actually participated in a number of community like give back programs. And I would love to see that brought back through the story and messaging of the brand as a whole. This idea of growing for community and connection, like that's why we are gardening. I would want us to also reframe the founder story to still have the engineer elements and still talk about the change in the products, but from a community and roots and connection lens. And really emphasizing this idea of bringing community together, sharing what you've grown, entertaining and hosting gatherings. Like, what are we doing with the materials that we're getting from our gardens? And that being the big focus. So I would also want to explore, so this is in kind of the differentiation boundary, the farm to table concept and content. So a lot of the competitors of Vego Gardens are still very product focused. Like you go to their websites, you go to their social media, it's very product heavy. Here's what we sell, here's what we sell, here's what we sell. To differentiate Vego Gardens, I would actually want to turn this into a number of series, including on YouTube. That could be longer form content while you've got the shorter form on TikTok and Instagram. That really breaks down how are we actually taking what we have grown in the garden and creating something with it. So meals, hosting bouquets, hosting, making bouquets, anything like that, but like really painting the life of what a garden can give you. Because the reality is people don't garden because they want a raised flower bed, right? They garden because they want a change in lifestyle. And I want Vego Garden to be the spearhead of what that lifestyle could look like for their community. I think some other great ideas would be highlighting the excitement of new blooms as they're coming through, what to do as well in like the end of growing seasons, anything to really pull together what the full experience of gardening is like that isn't just look at this cool flower bed that we have or look at this really neat product. At the end of videos, I would love to always have like imagery of them serving a bigger party or gathering, even if it's just a family dinner, but something to reinforce that community element. Again, so examples of what this could look like, even mocktails or cocktails from the garden. Like there's so many opportunities of ways that we can incorporate what has been grown in the garden, even crafts if we wanted to, but really pulling through what you can do with what you have produced as opposed to just what product you need to do the producing. Now let's talk about the experience pathway design. This would be really, really important. So I would actually want to segment Vego Gardens audience by their growing zone. So I imagine that Vego Gardens is definitely segmenting their audience based on what products they're purchasing. You can get a feel for if this person is maybe operating in a smaller space, if they've got a larger space, things like that. But I would also want to segment based on their growing zone and then create specific content and communities and newsletters that go to those zones in particular, speaking directly to what those zones need to hear. For example, when should you start growing X vegetable? When should you be planting said flower inside if you're starting it, outside if you're starting it? Even having the leads of each of these zones, because I see this being a content person that covers one or two zones each so they can really stay focused and in the know. Even saying like, hey, like based on the weather, an upcoming freeze is happening. Make sure that you've covered your gardens. So Vego Garden becomes this resource that actually cares for the community that is developing. I would want to also create some virtual communities based on those same segments and zones and invite new customers to those. So those customers can interact with each other. They can share ideas, share seeds, transfer plants, ask questions. Gardening groups are a very popular thing. You see them all the time on Facebook. And so having Vego Garden be the spearhead of one of those, where when you purchase something from Vego Garden, they know where you're at because they're shipping the product to you. And they say, hey, here's this community that's going to help you along the way. I know that you're in zone 11A. Like, here are some people that can help you with that. Make sure that you join this community. So that's what I would do for the experience pathway design and the audience segmentation. And then let's actually also talk about brand world rituals. So this is something that gets people continuously excited and involved in the brand outside of just consuming content and actually purchasing. Number one, a quarterly publication. But instead of doing a magazine, I would want this to actually be on newsprint because newsprint is compostable. So giving these people an opportunity to not just obviously read and experience the brand, but kind of pulling through that sustainability element as well of, hey, now that you've read this, here's how you can use this in your garden. Like, we're not just giving you something for you to enjoy once and then throw in the trash, but we're giving you something that's actually going to help and compost in your garden. I'm thinking things like highlighting recipes, what to prepare for the next growing season, different activities, bouquets, tips for the season, so on and so forth. And I see this being sent directly to consumers and also shipped with their orders. So when someone, places an order, you ship them one of these publications. Featuring gardeners as well, and this is something that could be really cool to do on your social media too, is have people submit their gardens and do features of their gardens, and not just like a, hey, cool, here's this person's garden, but actually do stories on them. Make them feel like they are part of the Vego Gardens family. And then I would also want to do exclusive workshops. So these would be workshops on gardening, landscaping, landscaping design. You could even eventually do some more of like the bouquet or like cooking classes, but these would start as invite only for like small intimate groups geared towards your most loyal customers. But you would share this online so that other people who purchase from Vego Gardens are like, ooh, I want to get an invite to this specific activity. I can also see this starting first in just the Houston area, but as you expand, moving out to other cities around the United States. These workshops, again, are a way to involve the community, get customers excited about what they're doing, reward them for being loyal to you, and also educate them outside of just using a product. Like, this is teaching them how to enjoy the garden, and you just so happen to have a product that can help with that. But that's not what the actual focus of these workshops are, which again is another way to continue to grow out the Vego Gardens brand as a lifestyle, not just a product company. Now, there are a number of other ideas that we could go off on a tangent for, but I wanted to keep this video short to just show you what is possible when you expand your brand past just a product or service that you sell, but actually start to create it in a way that customers can engage and bond with, which increases customer loyalty, increases trust building, and ultimately increases revenue. Now, if you'd like to see what it could look like if you and I partnered together for your brand and how I could help you build a brand universe that people are obsessed with, book a discovery call. I'm going to pop the link below. We can chat about your brand and what it would look like for us to work together. In the meantime, keep killing it.